Conversation. Following on the success of the panel, we decided to broaden our approach to community communication. Cayman Conversation is for the community and with community discussing real topics with real people. I'm your host, Ralph Lewis, and today we shine our spotlight on the Cayman International School, and our special guests are Director Jim Urquhart and Mr. Zion Bodden. Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you doing today?
Good afternoon, Ralph. Thank you for having us.
Again, Zion?
I'm great, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Cayman International School has launched a new scholarship for students entering years 9, 10, and 11 that will see their school fees at CIS paid for a minimum of 2 years and a maximum of 4 years. During this time, they will undertake the prestigious International Baccalaureate Diploma Study Program, which is recognized the world over, and will place them in good state for further study at some of the top universities. Hi, Jim. It's great to see you again. Please introduce Zion and tell us about the Cayman International School.
Sure. First, Ralph, Mr. Ralph, we really appreciate you having us on the inaugural program for Cayman Conversations, and we're very fortunate that one of our guests is Zion, a current high school student at CIS, who aside from being a hard worker and a strong academic student, he embodies our community principles of kindness, partnership, sustainability, and good intent. And so when you invited us on our show, we thought people like to hear from the young people more than, say, a more seasoned person than myself. So we're delighted to be joined by Zion. And as you mentioned, we've increased the magnitude of our Cayman Citizen Scholarship Program, where we hope in the near future to be able to have as many as 12 students in the program. And we're starting in grade 9, but people can enter in grade 9, 10, or 11. And as you said, the focus there would be students in the scholarship program would engage in the International Baccalaureate Diploma Program.
Okay, very good. Can you tell us a little background of the Cayman International School? I know it's located down there in Cayman Bay, but we don't have that much information on it. Can you elaborate a bit on that school for us?
Sure, absolutely. The school began around 1994, and it would have been called at the time the Faulkner Academy. Oh. And Miss Nimmy, who was one of the founders of that academy, is actually still here on island. And we're very fortunate that Miss Nimmy sometimes comes by the school and share the history about the origins. At that time, there was 4 students. The school grew to the point where it was about 100 students, and at that time, it became to the size that they felt some more help and involvement would be beneficial. So in the early 2000s, I believe in 2003, International School Services became involved to help with the governing of the school. And at that time, the school's name was changed to Cayman International School, and then eventually moved to this location where we are in Cayman Bay, between kind of the shopping area, I guess the town center of Cayman Bay, and the landfill site, and with Esterly Tibbetts to our south, essentially. And at that time, the buildings through the Claire Dart Foundation, William and Claire Dart Foundation, a series of buildings were built to help support the school. And then the school continued to grow until today. Actually, we have 960 students. And the addition, you can see actually behind me, in January 2021, we opened a new high school building. And then this way here in September 2019, opened an early childhood center, and that was through the support of the Kenneth Dart Foundation. And the school does have some financial responsibilities there to ensure that the buildings are upkept. And now we're so happy to be able to welcome students from 2 years old all the way up to grade 12, which some might refer to as year 13 or their final form at the school.
Very good. Okay. And Zion, I'm going to bring you into the picture right here. How are you enjoying your school?
I absolutely love it. I've been here for 14 years, I think. I've been here since pre-K3 from the very beginning. And every single year, different teachers, but they all follow the same principles, the same concepts, the same morals that CIS like to keep around. And to be honest, it's amazing every year. Even though it is different, it still feels like I'm surrounded by people that I enjoy to be around.
Okay, great. There's some concerns regarding size of classes. Do you feel that your size of classes are optimal? Are they good for your learning abilities?
I
Zion?
think I think it's perfect, to be honest. Like some of our classes, I know, for example, from my math class at least, I only have 9 students, including myself. So I feel like it's almost a one-on-one session. Like I think it's optimal learning. It's amazing, and then it can range up to like 15 students. But even then, it's still like even if I might be working in groups, it still feels like I'm getting direct teaching from the teacher.
Yes. Okay, excellent. So you say you've been there 14 years, it is?
Yeah, I think
How,
this is my 14th.
okay, so you're getting ready to graduate to university, I would
Oh no, I
suggest.
still have 2 more years left of school first. Yeah.
Okay, 2 minutes. Okay, right. So, well, I'm sure you're going to be doing well. Okay, Jim, back to you. Could you, do you think that there are enough scholarships available in the Cayman Islands? And I've seen recently a number of schools, number of businesses supporting the education. We did an article sometime, a number of scholarships that are available, and we were very impressed. But there are many others, I'm sure, who would love to do further education. And like you said, there are some families who just do not have the means at that point. Do you think that there are enough scholarships available for everyone or most of our students to get access to education?
Well, that's a great question, and I think the key word is access to education. My sense worldwide, not just here in the Cayman Islands, is that greater access should be available for education. We know that the world seems to be going slowly in a direction where access to education becomes a financial challenge to
Yes.
people. And in a perfect world, even in a good world, that access should be have greater availability. And our work with expanding the scholarship program is to hope with the notion of enhancing that accessibility, not just from a financial standpoint, but also from a cultural standpoint, from an awareness standpoint. My sense is that though, despite this is just my 20th month here in the Cayman Islands, is that the notion that we're a stronger island if the more we're together, and that greater sharing across the island, I think, is critical. And so it's reassuring to hear that many locations are looking to expand scholarship opportunities to increase access and allows people to pursue areas that might be of interest to them that in previous years they might have not given great consideration to.
Okay. And thank you for that answer. And we're going to sort of discuss and talk about education at Cayman Islands. I'm not an expert on education, but I feel like by just having conversations with experts like yourself and the student, that I can learn a lot from it. And that's what I love about media. There's so much stuff, information around that. We're just going to talk about it. And so what I want to talk about is the education in the Cayman Islands and how your school fits into that model and how it brings results. And in some countries, education is free. In the Cayman Islands, it's free for some people, not others. And what are thoughts about free education in a community?
Is this for Zion or for
For you, for you, sorry, for you, yeah. Mhm.
um, I feel, and people around the school know that this is one of my soapbox items, is
Mhm.
that certainly education and health should be available to all, that it should be a free, of course, free is a misnomer because we know to be able to make that happen,
Yes.
there's needs to be some form of getting duties
Financing.
or taxes to
Yes,
pay
of
for.
course.
But certainly education and health are areas that it makes a society stronger if everybody
Yes.
has access to that. So my thoughts on that is definitely I'm very much pro um, free education and access to all. And the irony is not lost on me that I serve as a head of school of a private school that has fees, and yet at the same time that having education be free, and I believe healthcare as well helps
Yes.
the young people. It helps them be able to make decisions on their learning without the potential burden of finances related to health or education in the background. I think it helps also um, still younger people, but perhaps people in their mid 20s,
Yes.
30s, as they're working to find out more about themselves, more about what's their passion, more about what might be their career or careers, that they're able to make those changes and explore without the worry of what health and education might hold for them in the future. Should they make a wrong turn, or
Right.
should they make a great turn and be set up well for the future?
Yeah, sounds great. Zion, I'm going to switch back to you now. How important is tertiary education um, to students? And there's some who may just achieve a high school diploma and may go into the workforce. I remember in my days of school, I'm from Montserrat, by the way, and to get a university scholarship, you had to compete with region number of islands. So it was very difficult for high school graduates in the territories that I lived in to get a scholarship. So most of us came out of school and went to work, and that was what happened. As I grew up in my career in banking, I went back to school and was able to get my banking degree. But just to repeat the question, how important do you think tertiary education or upper level of education? How important is it in this in this time?
I think it's so important. I think tertiary education opens up so many doors. And I know a lot of my friends, a lot of people in my grade will be looking to pursue that kind of education after they leave CIS. And I think that it doesn't really matter what occupation you want to go into. Like, I would love to go into football. Like, I love football, but I understand that it's not always the most realistic goal. So it's important to have something to fall back on, some sort of education that you can work a job with.
Right. That's a very and that's true. Yes. Do you play in this? So you say you're into football.
Yes, sir.
Do you play in the sports?
No, only for fun, like at lunch or at recess, but football is the one I take seriously the most.
Okay, very good. Jim, back to you. Are there any sports programs at the ECIS?
Yes, as Zion mentioned, football, of course, as well as basketball, volleyball, swimming. We do have rugby, but on a less formal level, as well as certainly participating in the island's track and field meets. And we have some exploratory opportunities for students who may be interested in a particular sport that might not be part of a regular school curriculum, and people are welcome to introduce their own clubs beyond sport. Of course, the notion, the arts and service and activities are also critical. But certainly, I think the pandemic has taught us that the things that provide, I guess, feed our soul as well as our minds and hearts are critical. And certainly, sport, arts, and activities and service uh, are equal parts in good measure critical for our development and learning beyond, say, the classroom.
Okay. Can you speak about the facilities that are available? I visited there some time ago for, I think, a small business expo, and I saw some folks playing um, lawn tennis at
All
one
right.
point, and there. So apparently there are lots of facilities on that compound. Can you please explain to us more?
Sure, we're fortunate enough to be on a roughly, I guess, a 14 hectare. So I don't know what that is, maybe 18 acres
Okay.
space. We have indoor facilities aside from science labs, robotics labs, computer labs, design labs, and regular classrooms. We have specialty rooms for music and the arts, as well as a gym, an area called the ARC, which is Athletics and Recreation Center, that also is available to the community outside of school hours. We have a full-size FIFA football field, as Zion has already alluded to, as well as outdoor tennis courts and basketball courts, and a shared facility in a swimming pool. The beautiful thing, I think, and it's always the ingenuity and creativity of younger people, is even in green spaces that you can see kind of behind me here,
Yes.
that there's sometimes you'll see during a break time, inventive games begin. I see things like spike ball and
Okay.
bocce will start up during breaks, which is reassuring too, because they're social games in which people are learning during their free time. Not to mention a little bit of fitness, though bocce hasn't helped me with my fitness. I'm still growing east and west instead of north and south.
Okay. Okay. All right. Very interesting. Well, I spent quite some time in the BRAC recently. Actually, we could relocated there on a project. But traveling back and forth, I noticed a number of students coming down to play games in Grand Cayman. Do
Mhm.
your school compete in local sports?
Yes, yeah, we compete. We do exchanges with the public schools, with the government schools, most recently with basketball, also with other private schools on island as well. So that tends to happen in football, basketball, and volleyball, and less so in say cricket and netball. And of course, as I mentioned before, track and field is
Yes.
always a great staple here on the island.
Yes, very good. Okay, we can switch back to Zion, and Zion is a football star. How important is sport to learning? I hear some basketball players in the U.S. actually go to university with a basketball degree and they graduate and play basketball. But how important is that the sport is developed with the knowledge, the academics?
I think sport is, to be honest, equally as important as education, because it's all education really. You're learning to be a part of a team, work together for a common goal, and not to mention the physical benefits as well. And I think
Definitely.
that because now that I'm a part of many football teams, national team, club team, whatever it may be, I I improve that side of me. I get to open up even more doors in my future.
Yes. So definitely, sport is important, and would you say it has helped you with your focus and your concentration and your ability to get grades and so?
Oh, completely. Because I mean, I'm a goalkeeper, so it could be 90% of the game, the ball isn't even in my half, and the
Yes.
last chance of the game, a shot has to come in, and I need to be focused. I need to be present, pay attention. So I think that's definitely helped, and I can bring that into the classroom as well.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, Jim, what are your plans for the future of CIS? I just, like you mentioned, you completed the wings by or the buildings close to the main road bypass. Are those fully completed now? And what are your plans for the future?
Yes, the those buildings are completed now and completely operational. And Zion, excuse me, Zion's one of the 210 students that we have in high school right now. And with these new buildings, it's allowed us to be able to expand our programming and ease a little bit on our weight pool, so we're able to admit more people because of greater space. So with that, it allows for expansion of programming as we look to increase the things available in academically, as well as in the arts. So Next school year, we're adding a theater program, which we have had theater obviously at our school, but formal classes available in the realm of theater, and expanding our STEAM, so our science, technology, engineering, arts, and math programming, to be able to have more classes available for students as those become very popular, as well as be able to have more space for the specifics of the IB International Baccalaureate diploma, where to have a greater variety and robustness of courses available to the students, because certainly with more students probably comes greater variety of thinking, and we want to make sure those things are available for people.
Okay, very good, very good. You have your plate full, and I think as we go forward, we're gonna have a lot of students showing up who want to be part of your programs. Um, I want to switch gears a bit, not too far off, but we want to talk about employment. I remember my profession is banking, and I was giving consulting, teaching classes at school on financial discipline and how to manage money. Because what I felt was we were going to school to get education, to get a job,
Right.
but nobody tells us how to manage the money that we got. And we had a lot of people having bad experiences with managing their money. And after some research I did, we found out that a number of individuals who were not managing their funds well were actually between the ages of 22 and 30. So he told me that graduates who went to university and came out didn't know how to manage their money. Are there financial management programs in your school, and do you think there should be? This?
Oh, it's a super question. First, when I talk with younger teachers, that's something that we work with to make sure that they're managing their money as well as they can. As you know, the Cayman Islands, with people who are involved in diving, that's a very enjoyable endeavor, but it can be costly. Or those that have expensive food tastes and like going to restaurants rather than cooking, people
Yes,
can spend too much money. So we work with our younger staff, which is
yes,
important. It's interesting that you mentioned your research of 22 to 30 years of age. Right now, for the students, we don't have formal programming aside from when students are in grade 12. We have a special week called Senior Week, which essentially is some of those life skills that, quite frankly, schools should probably engage students in earlier. Things from straightforward as learning laundry, having a
yes,
couple basic meals that you can learn, cook, and budget for yourself,
right.
as well as simple finances of we have a finite amount, and how are you going to budget for yourself.
Yes,
But these
yes,
are in relation to people nearing graduation and soon heading off to tertiary education, or perhaps
right.
a gap year. And it is something that I think over time schools have moved away from things, say, in the realm of design and industrial arts and hands-on skills, as well as things particular to life, and
Yeah.
worried about very broad and meta learning. And so what we try to do is with that senior week to bring in some of those life skills where you go, well, you are so smart, but you don't know how to wash a shirt,
Yes,
or you're
yes,
so smart. And if you're so smart, why are you going out to dinner with friends when you have $50 left in your bank account, and you're going out and paying $45 for one meal? How are you going to
yes.
make that stretch? So incredibly important for tertiary education and just life beyond, because otherwise it's kind of like, if you don't learn it now, it becomes a very, very expensive lesson.
I know. And the writing's on the wall. And as I mentioned, our background in finance, and we hear talk about recession. We hear talk about inflation. The utility company has been putting, you know, messages out, advice. Actually, we sponsor a back page in our weekly newspaper, which is you give it to CUC to help educate, because we are aware that the cost of electricity will increase, as will many other things, and we have to know how to manage our money. And the learning starts from school. I remember stories where kids in the primary school were taught how to manage their little weekly pocket change. And I'm going to switch to Zion right now. Zion, how important you think is learning to manage money to students and young people when they start to work?
Oh, it's so important, and to be honest, I wish we did it even earlier in my school that I'm at now, in CIS, because I would love to learn that, because that's a real life skill. Because even though it's important to learn and be well rounded and learn different subjects, when would you ever be asked to like know the quadratic formula? Almost never. But learning how to cook and clean, like those are everyday things that everyone should know.
Yes, I totally agree. At my age, I'm still learning to cook because I tend to eat at restaurants. So I recently went and bought some food, put it in the refrigerator, and sort of motivated me to start to, make some breakfast sometimes. So it's very important. Life skills are so important. Do you have home economics in school, Jim? Yeah, you have
No,
those classes?
we do not. Aside from if a person where we have fashion design,
Right.
where people learn and make their own clothes, and through a lot of our fundraisers that students do to support different agencies and charities around the island, like regular, basically all schools bake sales are wildly popular, and the children, many, some not all, but many learn and do some baking at home and bring their wares here. But we don't have a formal home economics course.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, let's talk about employment, Joe. And I think that, as I mentioned, we go to school to get education so we can get a job, so we can earn a living, look after our families, and take care of us when we retire. Now, I have three kids, and the oldest is 35, the youngest is 23, and they all finished the university degree. And then, and years ago, I was concerned that when my kids come home with their degrees, they wouldn't have any jobs available for them. And we hear this complaint from many families: where are we going to work? And at one point, I was thinking of sending my son back to the UK, or back to the Canada for a job because there wasn't any jobs available in the Cayman Islands. But I think that, uh, speaking from the head of a school or high school, that is it something that you are encouraging or you're teaching your students about preparing themselves for the job market and what may exist in that job market?
Yes, well, certainly we stress that we know that the job market is, the classic idea of right now children, we're learning things in school for jobs that don't currently exist. And so what does that look like? And have that key elements of abilities in there: the ability to communicate gracefully and fluently, to be able to work with people, to be able to learn new skills, to be able to unlearn things that you think were true and way to do things,
Yes.
and to be able to switch and manage change. We know that these skills help children and adults, for that matter,
Yeah.
manage. And what skills do people need to be able to function well in a volatile, um, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world? And so it's kind of those basic knowledge items are critical. They're important, but the skills and be able to work and think on your feet become far more important. So then, as far as employment, I think that's the scary thing for us as parents. I'm similarly, my two children have graduated from university, and we wonder, what's going to happen. And
Yes.
I think part of that is for parents now, say compared to our parents, um, they maybe left us alone a little bit more on that and let us be able to make some of those mistakes and be able to learn from those mistakes. And I think now a challenge is parents have worked very hard to provide many things for their children. And one of that is we don't want to see them um, experience challenges of great magnitude,
Yes.
or not feel hurt, or maybe not even to have a boss or perhaps a teacher or a mentor point out areas of improvement, because that hurts. I want to protect my child. and
Yes.
and so I think one of the challenges is how to be comfortable with that
Right.
you know like you said, people would, it wasn't that long ago, you'd leave high school and having a high school diploma
Yes.
opened a lot of doors. That's not the case now. We talk about a bachelor's degree or even a master's degree now
That's
being
right.
the norm. So I think it starts earlier, certainly around the dinner table at home, talking with friends, talking with family members that might be, a favorite uncle, a favorite aunt that you can seek advice to from as well, and to be comfortable with changing what you thought you would do. We ask children, okay, you're 17, what are you going to do?
Yes.
And chances are they might change careers 5, 6, 7, 8. I've even read as high as 14 times.
Yes.
Which, if I came home, whatever that was, 35 years ago from high school, and said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to, change careers 14 times. I'm going
Yes.
to start and do that." That probably would have been an interesting conversation.
Yes.
And so I think some of that employment education revolves around how we work with parents
That's correct.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
too. So I think it's safe to say, and hopefully Zion doesn't hear this, is that I think the world is more sophisticated for younger people today. And I think in turn, schools, parents also probably shelter younger people a little too much as well. We've heard the word football quite frequently here, and the difference between football, say, 40 years ago, when children would go with a ball and play and probably manage their frustrations with each other or things that might not have been
Yes. Yes.
fair, and be able to learn and sort those out. And now we see children playing football, and you're wondering, are those adults playing football with them as well? And perhaps sometimes stepping in too early and not allowing people to learn from mistakes, which is,
Yes.
it's easier for us to learn from our own mistakes rather
Yes.
than trying to learn from other people's mistakes and observing.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a short break. I got to make a few announcements. But when I come back, I want to hear from Zion on what he feels about the employment situation in the Cayman Islands, especially with him getting ready to spend another 2 years, get some education. But I'm sure he's looking forward to working in the community. But if you just joined us here at Cayman Conversations, it's a brand new show. It's our first show for this series, and it's every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 o'clock, just around your lunchtime. And we're gonna repeat this show tonight at 8 p.m. And that's right here on Bobo 89.1 FM. And please join us if you want to go to our Facebook page. You can always review the show there too. It's Caymanian Times Facebook, and also Caymanian Times YouTube. And on Friday, Friday's paper, you can read all about this interview. So you have a number of platforms available for getting information from these hot topics or these great topics that affect our community. And that's what Cayman Conversations is all about. Don't forget, coming up this Thursday, we're going to have Mr. Mark Longevon, CETA's president, and also the GM for the Ritz-Carlton. He's going to talk about how many tourists are coming into the island, and there seem to be quite a bit, seem to be doing well. And we'll be talking about it on Thursday. So you want to join us on Thursday afternoon at 1 p.m. right here, 89.1 FM on Bobo, and also Caymanian Times Facebook page and YouTube channels. Zion, back to you now. All right. So are you prepared for the workforce?
I hope so. And next year, I'm going to be taking economics as one of my classes, so I hope that that will prepare me as well for the future.
Okay, very good. And do you think that you'll find a job when you leave school?
I don't know. I haven't even talked to my parents about that because it was a different time for them as well. My dad's about 50 and he did O levels, not A levels. So like he didn't even finish high school technically, and he immediately went to go work with the police force for 33 years, and now
Mhm.
he can give me this amazing school and such great opportunities. Like he's worked hard. He hasn't had crazy education. So I don't know. I hope when I come back to Cayman, if I come back to Cayman, I can get a job that suits me.
Well, Well, we're gonna do what we have to do, and I think that it's a job for everyone. The schools, of course, have an opportunity, have a responsibility. The society, the community, businesses, the business market, and also the students. So it's a community effort in trying to make sure that everyone has a seat at the table. And I think that we grew up in a community, we grew up in a society, we grew up in a country, and at least we should have a seat at the table. If we choose to go somewhere else and have another seat, that's good. But at least we should have the opportunity to have a seat at our table right here at home. And I call this home. I'm sure you do too as well. And so I want to say that we can make it happen, and I'm sure that there will be a place for you when you come back home. And if it doesn't happen, you know where to find the Cayman Times. I'm really glad to be here. Okay, Jim, let's jump to you. I used to be the treasurer of the Parent Teachers Association, and there was always a challenge of having parents be part of the students' education. Can you tell us how important parents in their children education? Don't leave everything up to the school. And how is your school dealing with getting parents involved in day to day in the situations and development of our kids?
Well, that's a great question, Ralph. Well, first, one statistic that always amazes me, and when people are trying to find the magic bullet on how a student will have success from all aspects, academic, behavioral, sport, arts, that the one item that always rises to the top, that is the best way to support, is eating supper together. And which is always amazing, because you think, oh, no, you got to be reading it, and it comes down to our families eating supper together. And we know that families are busy, and we know that families come in all different shapes and sizes, but the chance to sit down and break bread together on a regular basis is a
Yes,
key element. And that's when you're talking about things, working through things, sharing what you've learned, sharing about family traditions, and of course things that you've learned uh, in school.
yes,
And so that to me is the key part of parental involvement in schools right there. And that's where we encourage parents, where what a great way to ask your child, um, not how was school, because we all had the answer, fine, leave me alone, but
yes,
sharing things like, what's your rose, buds, thorns, what's the highlight, what's the things that you're worried about, and that engagement. Our school works with, we recently had parent conferences, where our students are involved in the younger grades, and they lead the conference themselves, and it keeps them at the center of the learning. um, Actually, at the end of this week is Staff Appreciation Week, so we're very
like
fortunate
that.
to have a group of parents who are sharing their appreciation for our students. Our location and how our school is, it's though we've established a perimeter with some fences, which is helpful, it's still open, inviting, and welcoming. So even today, I know we have some parent meetings on campus. Certainly, the pandemic has slowed those things down. Size restrictions, limits of mixing, but definitely a parental involvement as far as access, through knowing what the curriculum is, through at our school. We have a community learning series. So, for example, last Wednesday, we usually function these meetings on Wednesdays. We did a session on grade 8, 9 transition,
Yes,
and that involvement is critical. And it's always a struggle too, because some parent groups, they believe fundraising is critical, and it is,
yes,
it's
yeah,
helpful, and others don't know it's all about community. And we
yes,
know that there's a dynamic tension there as well. And so how do you mobilize um, those interests of community and
yes,
and fundraising, and maybe specific agendas? So
yes.
it's a challenge, but parental involvement is critical. We know when parents are engaged in their own child's learning, that a child is more successful.
Yes, and I am testimony to that, and I always love to talk about these real life examples. I started this show, the panel, a couple of months ago, and then we decided to make it more community based, and it's called now Cayman Conversations. But the engineer in the back is my 23-year-old son who is at university in Toronto. He's doing
Oh,
all the stuff.
fantastic.
And my daughter is the she works for Yellow. She does all the graphic art. So the ads you see that she does that, and the big boy, he's the one that manages everything in the back and created the intro in about 6 hours last night. So it's
Oh,
a
wow.
family. So it's a family operation, and so that's how I think the parents should play a part in the kid's life. I've always, like I said, went to all the PTA meetings, and it has paid off. It has paid off, and it sets that communication, and it sets that example that we have to work together to make it happen. And this goes throughout your life. It's not just while you're going to school, but after you graduate, you'll see the returns. And I'm seeing it now. If I had to pay three people to do this, to do the jobs, I probably wouldn't have a show because I couldn't afford it. But I'm now seeing the benefits of all my struggles and paying for them to go to university and taking them to school. And I'm gonna be thankful because actually they went to public schools and it was free, and we got scholarships from the government for the university thing. So I'm thankful for the government. I do what I can to to give back. But the point I'm making is that with a parent in your children's lives, it makes a big difference. Not only now when they go to school, but after and as they go forward in life, they're gonna have children too, and
Yeah.
so you'll see how the relationship between their children really, actually replicate what is done. So I always want to speak about PTA meetings and how important the relationship between families and school is in child and kids development.
Oh, that's fantastic that you'll get to be together. No doubt, if there's parents listening, they'll feel I think something in their heartstrings that you get to be working and learning together as a family. And I hope to meet your son who graduated from the University
Yes,
of Toronto. That's where I graduated from, though, albeit
yes.
many years ago.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Zion, I know you have something to say about this. Tell me how you feel about parents working with the children and the teachers.
Just agreeing with Mr. Jim, to be honest, mostly on the fact that families come in all different shapes and sizes. And even though, for example, you would have a family dinner, my parents work very long hours and different hours to one another, so I don't always get that
Yes,
opportunity. But in the mornings, we often go down together, and because I live very far from school, it's a long car ride. So we always
right.
talk then in the car and engage in certain kind of conversations like that about school and their work sometimes and just life in general.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks
That's
for that
great.
feedback. It's good. Jim, where do your students come from? Are they from, like Zion said, he had a long car ride, not sure what direction he came from, but where are your students coming from? Are they coming from all around the island?
Yeah, they are, like Zion said. We have some students that have quite a trek in the morning, or families gauge the traffic if they're coming out. Say if you're coming out past Bodden Town, those are early risers to avoid
Yes.
traffic. Our families coming from West Bay, they always chuckle and go, "Huh, no traffic for me."
Yes.
We do have some who live closer to the school, and their children ride their bikes or take a scooter to school, and some in some walk. So really, it's from all over the island, and then beyond that, we have people from close to 40 different countries at our school, with a quarter, 25% of our students being Caymanian, and then 75% of our students from all around the world.
Okay. I know when we started talking about this interview, I think it was Keith, Mr. Mandish, who
Mhm.
mentioned that actually the school was trying to attract a lot more local people to come on the school. That's one of the reasons for coming on this program, because the program is followed by a lot of local people, and
Mhm.
I welcome that. And so, could you just comment on that? That you're trying that the kind of
Sure.
you mentioned a percentage just now. How do
Yeah.
you plan to improve that?
Absolutely. Part of we know that on island that expatriates don't necessarily have access to the public
Mhm.
school, and then we also know for different reasons. Uh, Sometimes people who've been living here in the Cayman Islands for an extended period of time, or this is their generational home, might not be familiar with uh, different schools on the island. And certainly our location, sometimes I guess the
Yes.
location could be a
Mhm.
barrier based on what might be available from a public transport situation. But it is something, this is, our school has the word international in it, and international is always the place where we live
Okay.
as
Yes.
well. So
Yes.
most definitely, we want to build on the 25%
Of course.
of our student body, and we have the space as well as our staff. We want to make sure that our staff, as you mentioned, employment reflects the nature of our host country and our home where we live, as well as the nature of our globe and what the world looks like. So, part certainly is the Cayman citizenship, Cayman Citizen Scholarship, is to continue to expand our collaboration and cooperation with the broader Cayman Islands. Um, but aside from that, I feel it's just a critical part of learning. You know, some of our students who aren't from here, uh, they need to build appreciation and understanding of their new home. So it's kind of goes both ways for sharing.
Okay, very good, very good. I look forward to that day as well. Just talking about the trek to school, I've heard people waking up at 5 in the morning to actually beat the traffic to get to school on time, and going up to 2 hour drive in the morning and 2 hours drive in the afternoon, getting back home, spend 4 hours a day. Do you think your school is well placed, and are you planning to have branches in other areas of the island?
The To
The
the best of my knowledge, we're
location.
not planning on
Okay.
further branches at this time. Certainly, as we know, the traffic at certain times of day, we hope that people are able to manage that. I don't know of anybody spending as much as 2 hours in traffic, but we do know that if they're people coming from further away, if it's coming from North Sound or beyond Bodden Town, that it could be 40 minutes. Are people coming from West Bay, even from the very end of West Bay? That's about a 10-minute drive in the morning. And then, of course, people that are nearby in Georgetown, it's just a quick ride, not as much time that might
Yes.
be needed for, as Zion described, talking with family in the car
Uh,
ride. For
yes.
parents out there, that's a great way to capture your children looking in the same direction, and
Yes.
them hearing your stories.
I agree, yeah, and that's a great point. And by the way, we're getting some improvements. The government has said that they're gonna focus on improving the roadworks, and they have been. My
Yeah,
office manager says that driving to work now is a 2 minute drive. It has improved with the double lane in that in that area. But with the improvement in the roadworks and so on, of course, we should see some
yeah.
some improvement in the time that's spent on the road. Um, we're getting close to time and we have to say goodbye. But before we get to that point, learning from home, lessons learned in the pandemic. Just let us know what you did during that time briefly for your
Sure.
school.
Um, Ralph, do you want
So,
Zion or
Zain, you
Ah,
want to speak to that? How did
sure.
it affect you learning from home
Well,
during the pandemic?
at the beginning, it was kind of like an exciting prospect. Like we didn't really know what to expect, so it's like, oh, a change. Maybe learning from home. I get to sleep in later. I woke up 5 minutes before class started when I was home learning, and it it was much easier than having to wake up 3.5 hours or however long I wake up before school. Um, but I think as it continued, I noticed like I missed hanging out with my friends, like during passing periods or at lunch. I miss real interaction with the teacher. And even though like we had our cameras on and we were trying to engage in class, it could not be the same as real life. And I could not have been happier hearing that the next school year that it would have been in person. And I really like that.
Okay, very good. Okay. Do you think that you will change your format to include any type of online learning, Jim, or it's back to school as normal?
Ralph, we've been fortunate that the last 320 days straight of school, so all of last school year and this school year, we've been
Wow.
able to be in face-to-face learning, and I think that's a tribute to the community's cooperation.
That's good.
Um, there are some things that people might call as COVID keepers or pandemic learnings. We found the way that we do parent conferences
Yes.
and having the online formats has
Yes.
increased participation and increased accessibility to the point where if there happened to be a parent that was off island or is not able to come to the
Yes.
school, or if a person is a grandparent someplace else is able to participate, and that's something that we'll continue to use. The kind of the increased gracefulness around being tech savvy. So some of the platforms that we use as far as sharing, such as in our case Seesaw and Google Classroom, it's been able to be ramped up for some of the teachers that weren't so graceful around technology. It created an environment where they needed to learn quickly. And so those things are definite items to be able to keep. I think it's also heightened the importance of being together. Like Zion was saying, maybe missing friends,
Yes.
or it's hard to play in a band through a screen, or it's hard to play
Totally true.
football through a screen. And we know that learning is social, and that's a key aspect, even for those who are introverts.
Yes.
One thing that we definitely have learned is heightened awareness of mental health issues and anxiousness on island, and so the school were making some adjustments to the schedule to make sure, with a notion of slowing down the day to be able to help
Yes.
people take time to reflect, manage their workload well, and still be able to be at their best physically, socially, emotionally, to be able to do the best learning. So a couple of tweaks that way too from our learnings from the pandemic.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, we are almost there. Thank you for the time you spent, both you and Zion. We had another guest, but she couldn't make it. But this is really important, and we can stay here for hours and talk about school. But of course, we have other things to do.
Yeah.
I think I think we have a mouth we have said a mouthful already. The good thing is that it's recorded, and so we can go on to any time and look at this, a video recording at any point on the website and review what we've said, because the information that we've spoken about is very, very important, and I look forward to having these conversations. Before we go, can you just remind us about the scholarship and how we can get information on it and so on?
Certainly, for the Cayman Citizen Scholarship, it's please go to our website at cis.ky, and there under admissions that has all the details on how to apply to the scholarship. We encourage people to complete those forms as soon as possible. By the end of the month is when we'll be making decisions on those scholarships, and we certainly hope to maximize the number of people to be able to participate. It's people entering grade 9, grade 10, and grade 11 who it's open to right now. So that translates to the equivalent in the UK and Caymanian system. Grade 9 is year 10, grade 10 is year 11, and grade 11 is year 12. And we're happy to answer any questions as well. Our phone number is 945 4664. And I hope that's right, because one thing I've learned with technology is I don't always call myself. Um, But
Very good. Yes.
please do, and we're happy to answer any questions via telephone, and certainly we encourage people to apply to the program.
Okay, very good. Zion, any last words, any tips you want to leave with your colleagues? Wishes to send out to anyone?
I mean, firstly, thank you for having me on. This was an amazing experience, and I hope I can be on again at a later date. But I think, like just what Mr. Jim said, I think guys, people that are listening should definitely apply. This is an amazing school. I'm so lucky to go here, and I would love it if more people could have the same experience as I have with the great facilities and the great learning and everything. To be honest.
Okay, very good. And you have available capacity right now, Mr. Jim?
Yes, with the expansion of the high school building, it allows us to expand the number of students that we can admit in the high school, which is fantastic. So we've added additional positions for the next school year in anticipation of approximately 40 new students to our high school for August 2022.
Okay, very well. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, and for joining me today. I hope to see you again sometime soon, maybe in the new year. That will give some time to talk about what is happening, and maybe after you've chosen those scholarship winners, maybe we can bring them on here and have a discussion with them as well. Because I think education is so important, and education is the key to success. And I encourage everyone, try and get as much education. You're never too old to learn. I know. I'm like, I want to go back to school once I get a little time. Like I said, I started off being a banker, and now I'm in media, so I had to go back to school and get my media degree.
Yeah.
But you never too old to learn, and knowledge is power, and it's so good. And we set example for our kids, and so thank you very much for doing what you do, Zion. I wish you all the best in your studies and your future, and I hope to see
Thank you,
you
Mr.
folks
Ed.
again. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much, Ralph. We really appreciate it, and all the best to your family who's working with you too.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay. Well, folks, thank you for joining us today. Just remind you, join us again on Thursday on Thursday at 1 p.m. for a new show. It's called it's Cayman Connection, and we'll have a new guest, Mr. Mark Longifon. On behalf of my team, I'm Ralph saying take care, enjoy the rest of your afternoon and the rest of your lunch. And don't forget, pick up your Caymanian Times tomorrow, Wednesday and Friday. Good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.